Anyway, we're going to get right back to your calls, but first, let's hit Dr. Bob. Good morning, Doctor.
Hi, is Chet Kopic going to be live there in the studio today?
Actually, I'm glad you asked. Chet will be at Victory Chicago, which is up at 2610 North Halsted Avenue. If people want to stop by and see Chet, that's where he'll be doing the pregame show at 1 o'clock.
Hopefully he'll have his fur coat on, I hope. But
it's always, I got to tell you, seeing Chet work live is worth the trip. So if you want to see Chet today, 2610 North Halsted, the Victory Chicago. Now, I got to ask you about, where were you during 9/11, Dr. Bob?
Well, let me preface this with I went to medical school in New York, and one of my, I used to go to dinner there and Windows on the World every now and again. And I used to go down to the TKTS, or the half-price tickets booth there in the lobby, probably 2-3 times a month. So growing up, I was enchanted by the buildings, watching them go up and everything. I'm from a long ways away from New York City, but we got the New York City television stations where I'm from. Anyway, I used to look out the windows there. I'm scared of heights, and think about what happened if a window blew out and I got sucked out. Blah blah blah. So hearing those bodies thump, people jumping out was a real thing to me. And on 9/11, I was up on the oncology floor in a hospital, and the nurse came running out and saying, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And one of the nurse managers, whose husband happened to be scheduled to give a presentation in the World Trade Center, one of the buildings, she and I ran into one of the rooms and looked on television. After a little bit, I went down to the doctor's lounge, and I'm watching it on TV down there. And one of the doctors turned to me and he said, could you do me a favor? And I said, yeah. And he goes, could you pray for my son? He works on one of the top floors in that building. And as it turned out, the son was out of town on a trip that day, and when telephone communications were restored later that night, he called his dad to let him know he was okay. But people don't realize that 3,000 people died that day, but over 60,000 people work in that building complex. And they weren't trying to kill 3,000, they were trying to kill 60,000 and knock down the symbol of what is the United States of America to many people around the world. I mean, it's very, very symbolic what happened that day to people around the world. And I was down there in the doctor's lounge, and, we were all shocked when we, as many people did, watch the second plane fly into the second building. And but I spent most, from there I went up to the chapel in the hospital to pray for the people that were facing their death. And because unlike many people, I've been there, and you kind of, I felt a bond with the people that were there. A lot of the people I went to medical school with, their husbands and wives and such, worked in the building. And if you went to New York City for like the year after, New York was kind of like a zombie state, mourning state for over a year after the attacks. And virtually everyone knew someone or knew someone who had a relative die there. And it was... New York was in a state of shock for a year and a half, 2 years after that.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, Dr. Bob, we're going to let you go then.
Okay, well, go blue. Okay.
Oh, we're going to cause trouble. Bye-bye, Dr. Bob.
Bye.
That's our Dr. Bob. Somber today. It's a somber day. Again, man, I don't even know. If you're a rescue person, I don't even know where you begin with all the rubble that was down, and you're looking for trying to rescue people that are still alive, and you're stuck in that stuff, and man, I don't know where you begin with that. Again, you got to remember that the first responders who really went it, especially the ones that went into the building knowing they probably weren't coming out, because that's what they do. Rick in Rossville. Good morning, Rick. Welcome to WLS.
Hey, Jake, usually, I'm joking around, but like you said, not today.
Well, I could, I can give you one thing that I thought was kind of strange about 9/11, about the hijackers watching the shows, because they did a a minute, but one of the specials was a minute by minute showing how all the hijackers came together and what they did, and they showed the video going through security and stuff. Two of them that called up for hookers the night before. They called up, and when they were told it was $400, they thought it was too much money. Which I saw that on the special, and I'm like, what's going through their brain? They know they're dying the next day, and they're worried about money.
Well, there was a couple of them that knew what was going on. They're saying that some of the other hijackers didn't know what was going on, and it was like when they were up in the air and they realized what was going on. It just caused some confusion too. I mean, it was like a surprise to them. I think really the only ones who knew was Ada and maybe two others, and that was it of what the real mission and purpose was.
Well, yeah, you had your separate pilot who was going to take over the controls of the plane. You had your what they call the muscle people who were going to hijack the plane, and then you had I think another person that was kind of like if something happened. They weren't tipping themselves off as being one of the hijackers. So in case the crew or the passengers kind of rebelled, they'd be there to kind of stop it. So yeah, it was planned out very well.
Right. Well, anyway, my father-in-law, he worked for the state of Illinois at the time, and of course they put down or lockdown on everything, and he ended up coming home. It was like about 9:15 to 9:30 in the morning and all that. And of course, us living in a smaller town out here, later on, all of a sudden, people lining up at the gas stations because they didn't know what was going to be happening. But later on that evening, my wife and I, we were out just to get away from the TV and everything that was going on. And we're taking a ride out in the country. And, of course, all the planes were out of the air. But we noticed there was a plane going by at this incredible speed. And as it got closer, you could see that there were two others on the side of it. They ended up being fighter pilots on each side of the plane. And we figured, hey, that's Bush's plane because he was up in the air throughout all this time. And it was just like an incredible sight to see, just these three planes, or this one big plane and two fighter pilots on each side of it just streaking across the sky. And it gives you goosebumps. So, and then the other thing about this mosque and all that, when they were showing the footage earlier in the week about all this turmoil going on with the Quran, the burning of the Quran, you've seen people out there, they were burning the American flags.
Well, I don't understand that. I saw that video Thursday from Afghanistan. They were burning American flags. They had signs made, written in perfect English. And I'm thinking, most of those people in Afghanistan can't read or write. They don't have electricity. And there's people just stoking them up, telling them what's going on. I'm sure most of those people aren't on the internet saying, "Gee, there's this guy in Florida that's going to do this." I mean, they're being stoked.
Well, the other thing is too is that like with today, what's going on? How come Obama isn't in New York and Biden isn't in the Pentagon?
Biden was going to be at Ground Zero, and the president's going to be at the Pentagon.
Why isn't it reversed?
I don't know.
It just seems like Obama is distancing himself from today. And to me, I just look into it as him furthering his belief as being a Muslim. He's a Muslim first.
Well, you know what? I don't know what he is, but when you look at his actions of supporting the mosque, but this and that, and people question it, then he kind of looks at you like, why are you questioning it? Well, you look at some of his statements.
Right, exactly. And by the way, on a lighter note, the Tampa Bay is going to overtake New York, and your sports guy, he's got to get a little better personality. I mean, his personality is about as pleasant as a paper bag.
You see, that's done on purpose because that makes me look better.
Okay.
Because I have no personality, but next to him, I look like I do.
You're a funny guy, Jake.
See you, Rick.
All right, bye-bye.
Back to more of your calls right after this in WLS.
You're listening to Jake Hartford, 890 AM, WL.